Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I are always joyful and actually honored to have the opportunity to feature women from different walks of life, from different parts of the world, to celebrate them, to honor them, and to amplify their message of how they are being lifted up by other women and how in turn they are lifting up other women, because we know as women in this world, there's nobody harder on us than ourselves and other women. How do we get past that and have grace and compassion for each other and truly build a supportive community? And that is how we each are going to thrive. We're going to thrive because we lift up each other, because we take this journey together. Only together we go longer and further. And today, joining us for a enjoyable and impactful conversation is Latrice Cole. Latrice, welcome to Women Investing in Women.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is an amazing topic, especially for times that we're in right now. So thank you so much for your platform.
Our pleasure. And for our audience out there, Latrice is an image consulting coach who works with high-powered women, women entrepreneurs, women business owners, and professionals. And her goal is to help a woman show up powerfully even before she opens her mouth. So what's coming up for me, Latrice, as an opening question is, how did you get into this space? Because it's not something you're trained to do as a young girl. Because let's face it, in most societies, girls are taught, don't be heard, just be seen, be quiet, don't speak till you're spoken to. All of these things to keep a woman diminutive.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, at the very young ages for me, style was always part of my life. So my mom, my grandma, they've always, since a little girl, put style, as just part of me, right? Not just like in a vain way, but as a way to feel confident and to just look good. And, that was just who we are as women. And that has carried on with me through my life. But it wasn't really until I got into my corporate career as an HR professional where I saw that there was some type of strategy that could be merging style and how you are showing up using it with the brilliance that you have. I remember in one story in particular that really told me, yeah, this is what I need to do, is a woman and a internal candidate at my employer. She was going for a C-suite position, and she had a brilliant resume, and she knew that she could do the job. We knew that she can do the job. But because this was a C-suite position, high level position, it wasn't just about the resume. It was about, did she have the image? Did she have the brand to not only represent herself, her skills, but also being able to represent the company? And because she did not have that part of that presence, she was, she got passed over. And so that was like a $50,000 loss for her that she would have gained had she had nailed the promotion. And so I saw women like that, but then on the other side I saw women who did have the talent and who did have the brand image, who were climbing the ladder, and they were doing it a bit more effortlessly, and they were getting the promotions, and they were getting the money, and they were getting the recognition that they wanted. So when I saw that there was this disconnect between one set of women who got it, and then the others who, they had it but wasn't there, I said, there is something here. And so that allowed me to really tap into what I was good at, and allow me to be like, how can we use style as a strategy, as a strategic advantage to show others from the moment you walk into a room, before you open your mouth, that you have this unique brilliance and you're confident in it. You're confident in your worth, you're confident in your value, and you know how to do any job that you're going for.
Yeah, this is really a very fascinating concept to me. I might have to hire you. But what's coming to mind is how do you help a woman um, see that there is a disconnect?
Mm,
Just to help her see that, yes, I have this great resume and I'm totally qualified, but there is something about how I am showing up
mhm,
visually that doesn't connect, doesn't reflect who I am. Or or where it is I want to be going. How do you help a woman see that there is a disconnect, not be offended by that, and then be able to wrap her head around how can I then um, repackage myself in a way that is authentic,
mhm.
but also reflective of my depth and my breadth.
Yeah. So when women come to me, they already know there's a disconnect. They know for themselves that, listen, I'm trying to go for a particular position, a particular client. I'm getting into spaces and they're starting to feel like, oh my God, where I how I was showing up before at a lower level was fine, but now I'm in the room with more influential people or bigger decision makers, so they have this intuitive notion that, okay, it's something I have to level up in some way. And so for me, how I would tell women to assess if they feel like there's a disconnect is think about their goals. Think about your goals and what you're trying to do. If you are, let's just say, in the corporate space and you are trying to go for a C-suite position, first, start by looking at, well, how would my peers be showing up in a C-suite space? And if you're not mirroring that in some aspect, right, then that might be a disconnect. Now, to your point, once you actually understand, like, okay, there might be a disconnect. Now it's starting to figure out, how do I do that authentically? Because a lot of times for us women, we're told to blend in and to wear the suits and to wear this and wear the industry standard of whatever that may look like. And you don't have to do that. You do want to be able to represent yourself and the company or the type of clients that you want to attract, but you also need to make sure that it's done in a way that is really authentic to yourself, your personality, how if you're creative, for example, how are you putting creativity in your clothing? How are you putting that on your person? That should be somewhere in there. If you're really meticulous about things, maybe that's you're being a little bit more elegant and meticulous in your clothing. So there are always ways that you can do that to really reflect those smaller details so people actually get a better sense. But definitely start assessing your goals, where you're trying to go, and find, okay, what does that look like for me right now? And then now, how do I bring my sauce, my style, my authenticity? How do I bring my personality to it?
That is a fascinating way of approaching. And a
Mhm.
lot of times women focus on everybody else and then
Exactly.
grab and throw the first thing they see to go to work because they are focused on producing results. They're not paying attention to how they're showing up.
Hmm.
Now, I remember growing up as a young girl in the middle of a war zone. I was educated by nuns. We're not Christians, but educators were all Catholic nuns.
Hmm.
Nuns always told us, you girls, no matter how scared you are, dress like you're worth $1 million. When you dress well, you feel well. That
Absolutely.
gives you the confidence. And when somebody stops you to question you or shoot you, with all your confidence, you confront them because you know you look like $1 million.
Right.
That lesson stuck with me throughout. Now, I grew up in another part of the world.
Hmm.
And as a very young CFO, I went into work with my nose ring because it's my cultural tradition.
Yeah.
Wore a sari to work. I wore traditional clothes and I held my own. It allowed us as an organization to show up with diversity, to embrace diversity.
I love that.
And the message there was more powerful.
Yeah.
And obviously, I dressed in a very elegant way that was work appropriate, but still culturally relevant for an international organization.
Oh, I
Talk
love that.
a little bit about giving women permission
Yeah.
to just be themselves,
Yes, yes.
even before they get there, because you dress for what you want, you don't dress for where you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, 1000%. If when there's a saying, like you said, when you look good, you feel good. And I say it's cyclical. When you feel good, you look good. When you look good, you feel good. And it's this constant circle. So it starts by owning who you are, like you said. The experiences, the stories, our culture, they all make up who we are. They make up our personal brands, right, that we have and how we're moving through this world. So I always encourage women to tap into that. If you do have a beautiful, rich culture, how can we add that into your person? First of all, how do you embrace it for yourself, making sure that you embrace it internally, because then it's going to be so much easier to do that into, putting it into your dress, how you show up, because you internally love your culture, you internally love who you are and what you bring to the table. So I do believe that it does start with being proud of everything, your stories, good, bad, and the ugly, that make up who you are, the achievements, the failures, because those are all experiences, like you said, that you bring to the table, that you bring to an organization, that you are hopefully learning from, that can help an organization grow, that can help reach its bottom line. And like you said, show diversity, which is always a powerful thing in so many ways. So it starts with first really acknowledging all of that richness that you have, really embracing it and embodying it, because then once you do, it becomes so much easier to put it into your dress. You can start to put your patterns, or even your hair. You can wear your hair in its natural state, in a way that feels beautiful for you. Now, obviously, yes, you want to be careful with um, dress codes, so to speak, right? If your company has it, right? Obviously, if you're an entrepreneur, you're free to do that. But other than that, if dress coding is limited or beyond those confines, those smaller confines, make sure that you are embracing all of who you are so you can really show people, this is who I am. I'm proud to be who I am. I'm proud of the brilliant side that I bring to the table. And now it shows into my clothing, which is going to show in my confidence, which is going to show in my body language and how you speak, and so forth and so forth. It's a ripple effect.
That's really interesting. I'm loving what I'm hearing. And what's a little question that's coming to me is, so once you help a woman level up, so to speak, visually, do you find that you also need to go through a process with her in leveling up emotionally and mentally, so now she's fully steps in to this new image?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel based on my clients that I have so far, I feel that once they have leveled up, they're in a pretty good space emotionally and mentally. But every now and then, when circle back to say, hey, how are things going, or when it's time to just talk about a refresh, some of those emotional and mental things will come up that we sometimes do have to address. And sometimes I feel like I can be, a mini therapist, right? Like, obviously I'm not, but it's a very vulnerable moment, aligning your clothing with how you are feeling and what you are going through. And so sometimes, if my clients are going through something mentally, they may feel a little off to say, hey, Latrice, I have to go back to the drawing board and really um, figure out what's going on with me emotionally. So I need to revisit this, and we'll talk about it a little bit. But a lot of times they know for themselves, there's something going on with me emotionally, and I need to first do that. Because I will tell you, if you're not in a space emotionally and mentally to really be able to stand out, as I was mentioning in the last question, it's going to be hard to put forth your image that really best speaks to you because you're not feeling your best right now. So it definitely does come up when after the fact. And a lot of times, we may do some talking to figure out, what do you think it is? How do you think we can fix it if we can fix it together? So we will have those moments where if I can help emotionally to remind them, then yes. But then sometimes they really recognize that, I have to go and do deeper inner work. So they are still very tied together. You have to be able to be in a good space emotionally and mentally to be able to, rock what you feel represents who you are confidently.
Mm-hmm. And they are both feeding each other
Yes.
constantly, right?
Yes.
We dress how we feel, how we dress changes how we feel, so
Absolutely.
on and so forth. And a lot of times women get stuck on the fact that I used to look so much better when I was young before I had my children. My body is no longer the way I used to. And when I lose weight and when I get back to that body, I will honor in my body and dress properly.
Mhm.
Until then, I'm just going to be frumpy because that way I can hide all my flaws.
Yeah,
That's where the psychological process starts, right?
absolutely.
How
Absolutely.
do you help women embrace their full body the way it's created? Because women are curvy, women were created for childbirth. Things are meant the way it's supposed to. Our bodies change after childbirth.
Mhm.
How do you help women come to terms with that? Because that is more of a psychological thing than a appearance thing, and we choose
Absolutely.
the body we have.
Absolutely. Yep. I've had some clients in the past before they, decide to work with me, tell me, "Oh, Latrice, to your point, Dr. Cass, I'm going to work with you when I lose some weight." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute." That's not the time that you want to do that, because again, there's so many things going on with us. You want to be able to honor yourself and honor where you are now, right? You were beautiful then and you're still beautiful now, And so how I like to empower women is to, remind them that you're in this beautiful body as you is it's giving you wisdom, it's giving you life, it's giving you everything you needed to sustain you. But I also encourage them to do empowerment exercise. One of my favorite body exercises for even for myself is being able to stand in the mirror and look at me and being able to compliment parts of my body, because a lot of time women, we're always the biggest critics on, oh my God, like you said, I used to have these beautiful hips and great legs. And, now I have these. You were always saying something negative. So it's important to constantly say positive things about your body. And besides what it is doing for you, being able to stand in a superwoman pose, being able to sit here and walk with your head high and fix your posture, those things to me shape your view of your body in a more positive light. So I definitely empower women to be able to do those body empowerment exercises because they are important. But but it's not just a one and done. It's a consistent thing that you have to do, especially if you are still trying to come to terms with where you are, because we can constantly get into our head. So that's something that I would tell people or tell women over 40, that if you are still getting comfortable with your body, make it a habit, build a new habit around being able to look at your body and compliment what you love about your body. There is always something that you love about your body. It can be your face shape, it can be your smile. The whole thing is about switching those. My body is this and my body is that. How are we flipping that on its head to say, this is where I am in right now? Yes, you can always work on it, of course, but right now, how we honor it is to be like, you know what? I still do have killer legs. They're still there, they're still there. You know what? I may not have a six pack abs, but guess what? I have great round hips. There's always something beautiful that you can be saying, but it's the key is you have to constantly constantly doing and do it so it can build muscle memory for yourself, and you start to let down your guard a bit more and let down the burden and the heaviness, and start to find ways and realize that dressing frumpy is not the key to it. The key as well to making yourself feel even more immaculate when it comes to dressing the body that you have is to dress for your size, finding the clothes that fit. Even there's so many fashion illusions that you can do that you will be like, whoa, that's me. So I feel like once you get to that term of acceptance and you're starting to let that burden of, oh my God, my body used to be this and now it's this, you can start getting into the fun aspects of dressing yourself, because that's where I thrive. That's where I love to show women how to dress their body so they really, really be like, oh my God, I can do this. My body doesn't have to be the size 4. I'm a size 8 and I still look like a size 4. You know, that's where the fun begins. But you have to be able to first really come to an acceptance of, this is where I am and my body is still beautiful and there are still beautiful things about it.
Yeah, I am really, really loving everything that you're saying. It is so inspiring and just lots of light bulbs going off. And I hope that all the women who listen to this will respond the same. I oftentimes like to ask our guests about some of the challenges that they have faced, either external or internal, in creating this business for yourself, and creating this line of work and this path in life. What have been some of the challenges that you have had to face, either external challenges, practical things, or internal challenges to get where you are today?
Oh, yes. Well, first, business is very hard, right? Rewarding, but very hard. But I really want to talk about the internal challenges because I think that's part of my story and why I do the work that I do, because I'm an introvert extrovert by nature for myself. Many people, when they meet me, they think I'm an extrovert. And I'm like, no, I am an introvert. I dress like an extrovert because that's where I thrive. That's what I love. That's what makes me me. But I'm very laid back. And I feel like part of me being laid back has come from a child and being more of an introvert then, and growing up and feeling shy and always wanted to find ways to break out and step out. And so that's why I really feel like number one, style has gotten a hold of me. But even in my style, it's bold, it's a little dramatic, it's always elegant, but it makes me feel bolder. It allows me to show up powerfully. And so for me, if I know what it has done for me, that's pretty much why I'm getting into this work, because I want to be able to help other women who are fighting against, oh my God, I'm a little afraid to step out, but I know I can step out. So how can I do it? And I think when you step out into that boldness, it also allows you to create the life that you want. I always say that I want to help women create a luxurious life on their terms, whatever luxurious means to them, right? Not material, but this richness of a life. And I think in order to do that, you have to be a little bold to do that. You have to step out against the grain a little bit. And I think when you understand your power and you understand your brilliance, and for me, I didn't necessarily know that either. I felt like when I was in corporate, I knew parts of me, and I was a go-getter. So I was also a high achieving, woman. So I was just going for the opportunities, but I never really truly understand what made me unique. Right. I know that I was great at getting dressed and styling, and people know me for that portion, but there was other things to me that allowed me to build this business intentionally and to use style as a strategy. So for me, I'm so passionate about it because when you know more about yourself, then you can build the life that you want to do. You can do it intentionally. You can show up a little bolder. You're not afraid to break the mold a little bit because I know who I am, and I know that this is where I want to go. And I may be afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take the baby steps anyway. So for me, a lot of my challenges as an entrepreneur is fighting between the old shy me, the introverted me who is like, oh gosh, I'm afraid. And, again, as women, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to do this. And, I want to stay in my in my lane, and then the 2.0 version of me that's like, man, you are an expert. You are going to be a thought leader. You have all these big dreams that you need to go for. So as I'm going through it, I also want to help women align it with themselves. So for me, it's always the internal battle. External will always be there, but the internal battle is for me what empowers me to help other women get aligned with their brilliance as well.
That is brilliantly put because all our real struggles are internal struggles. There is no bigger critic than the self critic. And we women have perfected that art. I guess mothers pass it on to daughters and
Yeah.
daughters pass it on to their daughters. It's almost like our legacy, our inheritance from our mothers, right? So as we bring, it's funny how time flies.
I
And
know.
we are at the point of closing, but two things. I want you to take a moment and share with our audience how they can get in touch with you so that they can learn more about how they can show up intentionally with class to live their dream the way they want to shape it. And
Yes.
then as you do that, also share with us guidance you have for mothers and girlfriends on how to empower women and girls instead
Mhm.
of body shaming and tearing them down, because we women do this to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you can find me. I hang out on LinkedIn mostly. So you can find me. My handle is linkedin.com/LM consulting. You can email me at hello@latricemonique.net. Once you get on LinkedIn, all my information is there. You can get on my newsletter as well, where I give empowering tips on how to merge your brand and your image so they become one cohesive and powerful brand image for yourself to use in your personal and your professional life. And I would say how mothers and girlfriends and sisters can empower younger women is to allow them to show their authenticity. Allow them to show you their ideas. Don't shrink it, because I think that's where it starts. When we women or girlfriends or sisters or whoever, when we see younger women sometimes and we see them trying to do something a little different or a little bold, it may prompt like, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not the way things are done. Allow them to be able to show who they are, because when you do that, it's going to allow them to feel comfortable in doing that. Allow them to explore how they are getting dressed in the morning. Don't limit them to that, because that's where, as a child, they have all these bright ideas, their big imaginations. And to me, those are all signs of creativity and individuality, and they're dropping hints to who they might be as a person as they're developing their own sense of self. So I would just say empower them, encourage them to learn more about who they are, encourage them to express that in their own ways. And just because it goes differently from what you were brought up doesn't mean that it was wrong. Doesn't mean that it is wrong. If you were taught that, as a woman, we're supposed to be more buttoned up, and you see your young niece, daughter, and they're wearing, bold, vivacious colors, or they want to color their hair in a different way. Let them express it in some sort of way, because if if you repress it, then you repress them and you repress their sense of joy and their sense of childhood and who they potentially want to be. I think a lot of times I've seen this currently in the conversations about work, about how other experts are reminding people to go back to their childhood, to think about the times where they were playful and they were able to think big and think imaginary. And those years are important. So I say allow them to express it, allow them to continually show it, because it's going to help them build the muscle to not be afraid to do that when they get older. Because I wish somebody would have, allowed me to do that as well, or, told me you don't have to be afraid, so I just think it's so important. Allow them to express it somehow, some way, so they are able to do it once they get older. It's not as hard, and they don't have these mental barriers to say, I'm not supposed to do that because grandma told me I couldn't do it. It sets in us from a very young age. So if we can give those keys to them now and allow them to do that, I think it's going to be helpful as they mature and as they get older. It'll be easy for them. It'll be routine for them. It'll be part of their fabric.
So beautifully said, Latrice. This has been such a joyful conversation.
Thank you.
Every woman needs to hear this, even if they believe they've got it.
Yeah,
Right? This is a reminder we all need. And thank you for taking the opportunity to do that for us and be that person for us.
thank you again for having me in this amazing conversation. I love talking about it. Like I said, I'm very passionate about it. So thank you. Thank you both for just giving me a space to really share that and to really empower women to just be yourself, tap into who you are, show it, and fight against it. Baby steps at a time. You can do it. It's so possible. You don't have to put yourself in a box. Let yourself sing. Let yourself sing boldly and in color. And I believe it'll change. It'll change so many things for you.